Hey, fifth graders, long time no see. I hope everybody's doing well. And I wanted to kind of introduce, we're going to be, after April vacation, launching into instruments of the orchestra and families of instruments, which you guys have done before, but we take it a little further in fifth grade. So with the families of instruments, I want you to remember that there are 4 families that make up the orchestra. We've got the string family, which is the one we're going to talk a little bit about today and also really launch into after vacation. We also have the percussion family, mostly things that you hit or you cause to vibrate in some sort of way. We've got the woodwind family, which is a family of instruments that either are made of wood or used to be made of wood and we put air into. And then we've got the brass family, which is a family of metal instruments that we also put air into, but once it gets in there, it works in a totally different way. So all these families have in common, besides the fact that they are made of musical instruments, is that they use vibration. And if you don't remember what that means, it's when something shakes back and forth super duper fast, okay? That's basically how it makes sound. So let's talk about how string instruments use it. First thing we need to remember is the parts that make up a string instrument. So we've got the body over here, okay? We've got the neck, we've got the head right here, the tuners, we've got down here is the bridge, and of course, hard to have a string instrument without any strings, okay? Now, the most important parts for what we're going to be doing today are the body, the tuners, and the bridge, okay? Now, it's the strings that make sound, but the reason they make sound is because they vibrate. They shake back and forth really fast. And the way that we make that happen is usually we pick them. Okay? Now, if the strings were sitting on the bridge, you know, not kind of free-floating, then they wouldn't make any sound. It's actually the bridge right here that holds them up. And if I hold that so super duper close, you can see that there's the tiniest bit of space between the string and the neck, basically right in there, okay? So that's what causes it to vibrate. It shakes back and forth, it makes sound, but the thing is that it doesn't make enough sound. It would actually be very quiet. So what really allows string instruments like the acoustic guitar to make enough sound to come back at you is that the vibration goes down through the bridge and into the body where it bounces around. And every time it bounces, it gets a little bit louder, it starts moving a little bit quicker until eventually it kind of flies out here, out of the resonating chamber, and it's loud enough that you guys can actually hear it back, okay? Now where the tuners come into play, every one of these strings is tightened just right, okay? Before I can play this, I've got to make sure that every string is tuned to a certain letter, A, B, C, D, E, F, or G, depending on what string it is. And if it's not tuned right, it's not going to sound right. Like right now, I know if I put down this chord, or this one, or this one, or this one, they're all going to sound pretty good because I tuned this thing up before I pressed play here. If I turn even one tuner, and I try that same thing, I don't quite have as much success. What I did is I loosened the string, and it changed the way it sounded. So if I loosen it, that sound's going to go lower. If I tighten it, it's back where it needs to be. And we're home, okay? So where this all comes into play is I'm going to have you guys kind of build a string instrument. And if you have the materials at home, you can try this out and have some fun with it. If you don't, that's fair. This is not something you should be going to the store over. You can just kind of watch this and keep in mind that the way we're building this is designed to mimic the way a string instrument works. So while we're, you know, putting this together, we're going to be learning, you know, how a guitar comes together, how a violin comes together, sort of anyway. So here's what you're going to need for this. You are going to need a plastic cup, okay? It does not have to be this big. Literally any kind of disposable cup will do. You might have those red Solo cups at home. They're all good. In fact, they're probably easier than this one because this one I found out is really thick and we're going to have to put a hole in this, okay? So the other things you're going to need is you're going to need parental supervision. You're going to need some scissors. Again, there's that parental supervision. Shouldn't be doing this on your own, okay? You're going to need probably something that you can use the scissors. We're going to be poking a hole in the cup, but you can also get away with a thumbtack as long as it's okay with the people who are at home. You're also going to need string or yarn or something like that, and if you cut it to be about 1.5 feet long, little more than 1 foot long, that's going to be perfect. You also might need some tape, okay? So, again, to refresh, parental supervision, can't really stress that enough. Plastic cup, scissors, tape, string or yarn, okay? So what we're going to do first is we need to poke a hole in the cup. Now, I've already done that, which is good, because if you guys were sitting on the other end of this waiting for me to do that, you'd have a solid like 3 or 4 minutes of watching me try to get the scissors in here. This is a thick cup, okay? Some of those cups are a little bit thinner, and because of that, you might need to be careful, because if you try and poke a hole into it, you can end up cracking the bottom. So just be careful with that. But you can see, maybe, yeah, there's a hole right in the middle of there. Not super wide, it's just got to be wide enough that we can fit the string through, okay? Now, the cup is basically going to act as the body of our guitar, or the body of our string instrument, okay? It's going to act as the resonating chamber. The vibration's going to go into the cup, and it's going to be allowed to bounce around and come back as loud as it needs to be so that you can actually hear it, okay? So the next thing we need is the yarn. And once again, I've already kind of taken care of this step, but what you want to do is you want to tie a knot at one end. And I've tied a pretty good sized knot there, okay? You can tie it a few more times. The bigger the better, because what we want it to do is keep the string from going into the cup, okay? We want it to kind of get caught on that hole, okay? Once you have your string or your yarn with your knot and your cup with the hole, what we're going to do is we're going to take the end of the yarn without a knot, and we're going to put it into that hole. We're going to turn the cup upside down and feed it in from the top. Once you get a little piece in there, you can just reach in, pull that through, okay? And it should be trapped there. Now, I've tied a pretty big knot. This thing's not going anywhere, but if you want to be extra sure that that knot's not just going to pull through the hole there, what you can do is you can take some tape, just kind of slap it on the top here, okay? As much or as little as you want. Duct tape's good, Scotch tape works. All right, I tied a big knot in mine, I put a big piece of tape over the top. This string is going absolutely nowhere. It's going to be there all day. And believe it or not, you've actually already made the string instrument. So now let's kind of see what we can do with it. All right, so what you want to do is you want to find some way to anchor the cup. I'm going to go simple with this. I'm just going to put it under my arm and kind of hold it still there. And then you're going to use your other hand to pull the string tight, okay? Now, this is actually a little bit easier if you have somebody to help you with it. But what you can do if you're totally alone on this is you can pull the string tight with one hand and then hold it with the same hand that's kind of got that cup anchored, all right? And what you're going to do is just kind of give that string a tug, okay? Now, it's not going to be super loud, but you're going to hear way more than if you just kind of flick a string. Look at that. No sound. None, okay? But if we pull it tight, that vibration is going to travel down the string. It's going to resonate through there. This is basically the bridge of our instrument, okay? And what's kind of fun to do with this is you're playing pizzicato right now. You're plucking the string as is. And you can play with how tight you pull the string or let it up a little bit loose, just like we saw with the tuners here. If you loosen the string, the sound is going to get lower. The tighter you pull it, that string is going to get higher, okay? Now, I haven't quite mastered it to the point where I can play a song on it yet, but you can change the sound. Okay, now what you can also do, kind of for some fun, is you can experiment with it. Okay, so we have a guitar pick here. And the other way that you would typically play a string instrument, besides just putting down, either picking with your finger or using a guitar pick, is you might use a bow, all right? Now, I'm not going to use that, but basically what a bow does is it rubs against the string and kind of just causes it to vibrate in a different way. So you can even just use your fingers, and you get a sound there, okay? And again, the tighter you pull it, it changes the type of sound that you have. You can experiment with all sorts of things. Pencil. And you're gonna get some really interesting sounds. In fact, when we get back together, if you have tried this, I am gonna be super curious as to some of the interesting things you tried and which ones were your favorite. So make sure you keep track of that, all right? So guys, enjoy your vacation. I'm gonna be back with you after vacation, and we're gonna jump right into families of instruments. And we kind of did the real basics on how string instruments work. We're gonna get a lot deeper into that. In the meantime, be well and enjoy yourselves.